Hey yo, what is up guys? Your boy's back with yet another video, and yeah, so today we're talking about Payback 2014. Payback 2014 was a pretty mid show if you were to ask me. Like there was nothing really like super standout out here. The only thing this show is really known for is like Daniel Bryan not retiring, was having to relinquish his world titles here. And yeah, that would be defended at the next pay-per-view, or not defended, won by a mysterious person no one can see. uh, so yeah, uh, this show is pretty much kind of known for, it's kind of the last match of the original Shield run. That's kind of what I know the show for, and I think most people kind of know the show for that. I don't know, does anyone even still talk about this show? Probably not. It's probably kind of long and forgotten about. It's kind of just some mid B. It was literally a B pay-per-view in 2014 that no one even remembers or talks about. Essentially, outside of like the main event, because the main event's actually kind of notorious. Because I didn't actually realize this is probably the last match with Evolution. Also, well, them all together with Batista, Randy Orton, and Triple H tag teaming versus the Shield. So, but the Shield did tag again later on over the years. They reunited back in like 2017, 18, and their last match was in 19 together. So the Shield ultimately did get back together. So yeah, let's talk about the show here. So the first match I'm going to talk about here is Sheamus versus Cesaro. So Sheamus versus Cesaro. This is pre the Bar. Now the Bar got together in I think 2015. I think they had a best of 7 series. So yeah, this is 2014 here, where they had, honestly, a really good match between an Irishman and a Swiss cyborg. This match here was really good, really physical stuff. This match I actually would recommend going out and watching. Like, if you're just like a fan of like old school pro wrestling, like where it's just like a solid derby all throughout the entire match, this is the match for you. Cesaro was just such a hard hitting match that I think most people would actually just really enjoy watching this. Solid undercard. This was for the United States Championship. Cesaro, he goes for like the Cesaro swing, and then he gets like rolled up and pinned. So Cesaro swing, Cesaro pinned is really what ended up happening here. And Sheamus went over. Really solid match here. Like, this is a really good match, like super hard hitting. Paul Heyman was absolutely awesome on the outside. Now I'm not really sure where this goes after here with Paul Heyman and Cesaro, because I remember like this is my last like real memories of the match together. So I don't really have any real recollection of them after this. Now they must have done something at SummerSlam, because it's just like they were together, and there was like the next week they weren't together anymore. So yeah, really solid derby here. Honestly, if you're going to check out anything from the show, it'd be this and there'd be a couple matches, but yeah, honestly, this I would recommend just watching it just for a good wrestling match. Next match we're going to be talking about here is Big E versus Rusev. So Rusev was on his rise at the time. I don't think I talked about him in the last video, but he did have a match on that show. I just didn't get to talk about it. This was just a squash match here. It was like 3 minutes. Big E, he hits like the spear off the apron. Rusev had some really interesting strikes. He was built up very strong, like this great athlete from Russia coming over and just whooping on the American heroes. Yeah, that's kind of what this kind of was that. And then Big E was no different. He just pretty much not squashed. Yeah, he pretty much squashed Big E. Gets him in the accolade. Big E taps out. Rusev goes over, and yeah, Rusev is in his ascent towards his WrestleMania feud with John Cena, which is why essentially was brought to the main roster. Now he kind of just, yeah, we'll talk about Rusev later. Either way, we're just talking about Rusev's rise right now. So this is it. This is Rusev's big year, kind of like similar to how Bray Wyatt got to have his big match with John Cena, except Bray Wyatt got to come back, fortunately, after that, as we're talking about later on in the show. But yeah, Rusev was the next Cena opponent at WrestleMania. So yeah, just a squash match here. Rusev wins. Next up is Wade Barrett versus RVD. So this match was decent. This was a pretty okay match. It wasn't great, but you know what? It was solid for an undercard of a pay-per-view. Wade Barrett, he was actually like I talked about in the last video, he's very good wrestler, very solid. RVD a little bit older here. He had a really nice split-legged moonsault in this. Yeah, really solid stuff from both guys. I kind of forgot like RVD was still around at this point. Like every time I see him keep popping up in these matches, I'm like, wait, RVD's still there, and that's just kind of another case. I'm happy like he's still around wrestling at that point in time, and it was really cool to get to see him. So yeah, just kind of a solid undercard match. I don't know, there was nothing really outlandish to say about it. It was just kind of theirs for the Intercontinental title. Wade Barrett picks up another W. Yeah, so that, like again, like I said, like the show is not really noteworthy for much on the undercard. Next up, we're gonna be talking about the blow off to the feud of John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. This was a good match. I liked the match. It was kind of like had vibes of the WrestleMania match. It was like right off the bat, like Bray Wyatt kind of hits a couple moves on Cena. Cena's kind of wobbling around the ring. They're doing like the dance move and stuff again. I think the Wyatts, they kind of start getting involved. The next thing, the Usos come out. They're all brawling around. They all kind of hit like these really cool splashes and stuff. I think was Jimmy does like this cool like corkscrew off the turnbuckle onto everyone, and that knocked everyone down. I am very, very sorry, guys. I did not get much sleep today. So yeah, that was a very, very like awesome move, and I think like Luke Harper put someone through a table. Like yeah, so like they all start brawling around on the outside. This was really, really cool. John Cena, this was awesome. He did like the Umag. I always remember this from what he did to Umag, where he had the ring steps in the ring, and he runs and he throws him out to the guy, like smashes him right into his face. And they did that here to Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, he hits a Sister Abigail on the outside to John Cena, like right after this. So yeah, this match, it was pretty chaotic. It was a pretty chaotic match. John Cena, like, I think it was him. He like tackles Bray Wyatt through the ring barrier, and like this whole match just like it deteriorated into chaos. Like I remember when this match happened, people were raving about it. People loved this match when it first happened, and yeah, you know what? It's a really, really good match. John Cena, they fight through the crowd all the way over to like by the stage area. John Cena AA's. I'm really sorry. Is Bray Wyatt down through the freaking box, and then he shoves like another like barrier or box over top of it. So Bray Wyatt's counted to 10. It's last man standing. Bray Wyatt's counted out, and yeah, Bray Wyatt lost the feud to John Cena. People were very, very pissed about this at the time. Honestly, like, you know, this wasn't like the thing I think that hurt Bray Wyatt the most, if you're asking me. But I think like losing a feud isn't like the worst thing ever, especially like I actually think it kind of did a lot for Bray Wyatt. Like honestly, like he gotta like yeah, I think Bray Wyatt still would have been fine. Like did he have to win this? Could he not win this? Well, yeah, I don't know. Either way, we're not really discussing that. We're just talking about what we thought about in hindsight. Honestly, like I just liked the match and the feud. Really solid stuff, and I really, really liked it. And I would watch it again. I think they kind of reunited this feud back in 2020 there, right? Like during the pandemic. So they had like no fans and stuff. It's like when this whole feud got like reintroduced. So kind of funny how that all works. Yeah, moving on to Paige versus Alicia Fox. So like Rusev, Paige was another NXT call up. She was like one of the girls who put NXT on the map with their women's division. Her and Emma were like the OGs of the women's division in NXT. And yeah, Paige, she was on the rise. I guess she must have like won the Divas title like right as she debuted. They pretty much just strapped her and sent her to the moon. Alicia Fox like acting super crazy at this time, giving people wedgies and stuff. I remember watching that. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? I wonder if I could find my old comments on those videos. Anyways, yeah. So this match was just kind of like, there was nothing really special about it. There was some little cool like wrestling stuff in it. Alicia Fox wasn't that bad. The PTO, the Paige tap out was an awesome finisher. Like I really, really liked that finisher, and it looked really, really cool. So yeah, match wasn't very long, but it wasn't terrible. But yeah, it was like I said. Lastly, we are going to talk about the last of the Shield here. So we're finally talking about the main event. Evolution comes out. They have like this big entrance. It kind of was actually pretty sick to see them all together, and they're chanting like Blue Tista and stuff, and Batista's probably just freaking out like, I don't get it. why is everyone chanting Blutista at me? They're like just chanting everything at Batista at this point in time. This match here, really solid. This again was like a really good match, a solid sequel to their Extreme Rules match. So the Derby itself in the ring was like, how do I say this? Like Evolution dominated a lot of this match. Like they had the Shield beaten dead to rights, and not like dead to rights, and a lot of like early on, like they kind of had like their little back and forth in the like first half of the match, but the Evolution just kind of like dominated. I think like they kind of dominated Dean Ambrose, they kind of dominated Seth Rollins here, like in like a lot of ways. Like they're very controlling in this match. It wasn't until like it was so bad at one point, not like bad, but like they were like they beat down both Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, and they just like left them up in the aisleway. And I remember, this is interesting. So this is like one of the interesting things. So like at the time, everyone was kind of talking about Roman Reigns going on to be the guy. This is kind of where like all those talks were like starting about Roman Reigns. And yeah, so Roman Reigns gets his Shield gear ripped off, right? Like that top half. No one had ever seen him pretty much, because I don't think he was really in NXT all that long. I don't think anyone really remembers him in NXT. I don't remember hearing about him. But yeah, he pretty much. I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but like, yeah, he gets his like gear ripped off, and some people are like, oh, you're body shaming someone. It's not that. It's like people, when you're hearing like, oh, you're gonna be the face of WWE, you're gonna be, you like, people would expect to be like jacked with like a six-pack and stuff, and like see him, like, not that he's not like jacked, but it was like he had this very like flat, not, how do I say this, it was like if this was a bodybuilding competition, he wasn't exactly like standing out, like very like high body fat percentage, and yeah, not like shredded like he is now. Like he's not as greased out as he is. But I just remember like how funny that was, and like how people were like, like that's it. Like it's so weird that like here I am talking about like some guy's physique or whatever. But like I just remember that, like, oh wait, that guy's gonna be like the next John Cena, and yeah, yeah. But yeah, so they kind of like beat Roman Reigns up in the ring, because I just remember that they kicked his ass in the ring, and then they had him on like the ring steps and stuff, and like Triple H is standing there, and Evolution could like have went for pins at any point in this match pretty much. They go back out, I guess somehow they all kind of like brawl back out to like the ring side. The Shield ends up like hitting the counter. They all start like brawling again on the outside. They start fighting back. They all end up in the ring. I think it's like Batista's the first one to get eliminated. I think like they kind of have like Roman Reigns hits him with like a spear or something like that, and then Dean Ambrose, I think, eliminates Randy Orton with the Dirty Deeds, and then Seth Rollins. I think they all kind of eliminate Triple H. Triple H realizes he's all alone, but then like Batista gets involved in the end. But yeah, they ultimately the Shield stands tall. They sweep. They get a clean sweep on Triple H. Yeah, so really, like, this was it for the Shield, because like the next night on Raw, Seth Rollins turns on them, and yeah, that's how that all went down. But yeah, really awesome stuff here. I really like the match. It's a very good match, same as their Extreme Rules match. Yeah, so the Shield stand tall here. This is like a very dominant victory for them. That all three guys were just going to go on and have like these insane careers. Yeah, honestly, like, really good match. And honestly, if this was like the last of the Shield at the time, this to me is like the end of, like, as like a fan of the Shield, this is to me like the end of like the Shield era. Like, I know they got together and put on the gear, but it was never like, this is the Shield. Like, this was the Shield. Like, and their original run with them all together united, like their original run, this was like the cap off of it. And to beat, you know what, three legends of the absolute business for however many years, and like the biggest faction of like the 2000s, essentially, pretty much, yeah, you could probably argue that like Evolution was like the biggest faction WWE did in all of the 2000s. I can't really think of anyone till the Shield really showed up, unless you think of the Spirit Squad. I don't know. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Payback 2014. Like, awesome main event, good match with John Cena and Bray Wyatt, a good derby with Cesaro and Sheamus, but everything else was just kind of like mid, and kind of sad for me to look back on, because it's like, oh man, that was it for Bryan Danielson. Like, that was it. Like, that was it was a good run. Like, he never really got back to that level that he was at in like 2013, 2014. Like, that run was just That like thinking about that just like kind of like depresses me. But yeah. Anyways, my next review will be of Money in the Bank 2014. Whew. And then we're cruising through 2014 here. We're gonna get this done. Anyways, star ratings in the description below. Peace out, guys.